All schools in Cayman. Bring the children, bring the family. Help inspire the next generation scientist. The Bill Rudy Rotary Central Science Fair, an intersection of young people in science. Rotary Central, creating hope in the world.
Radio Cayman's historical vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways, call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And now, Barbados. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk Today.
What is on your mind, Cayman? If you are ready to talk, we are ready to listen. Here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on another terrific Thursday. As we invite you, we have the excellent company of Miss Nicola Williams. And when we talk about early childhood education, I think she would say, like many, Miss Rena Jefferson and the likes, well, her name will soon be synonymous as well. So we're going to talk about the week of the young child. Stay tuned for our talk today.
Avoid any statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use indecent language or make any statement that is false or misleading. Call 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990, 949-8037, or WhatsApp us on 925-3261.
Email talk today at candw.ky. Let your voice be heard. And now, back to Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. Radio Cayman Talk Today.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks very much for joining us, and to Miss Nicola Williams. Now, make sure, it's always good to say Madam President. Wouldn't it be, Madam President of a country, Madam President of the world and the universe?
Yes, it's a big term.
It's a big term, eh? I think there was a show on TV once that was probably, just because of the actor, she is phenomenal, but, she was Madam President, she was first Madam Secretary, and then she was Madam President. I kind of enjoyed that somewhat. Someone's go, he watched TV? Yeah, he used to. How are you, Madam President?
Good, thank you, and thank you very much for having me today.
All right. For those who don't know, the Cayman Islands Early Childhood Association, all right, formally sort of recognized an entity that's been in the making for decades, but formalized in a long time. You do phenomenal work in increasingly more of us, not just those of us who have children or grandchildren that fall within that, that age group, but we've seen the benefits, and thankfully, I'm very, very thankful that you have been, together with your colleagues, very adamant, insistent, very public in saying investment in this area is an expenditure. So it's not semantics. It pays dividends. Here is economic research to indicate that it makes sense. I want you to emphasize that. We talk about the week of the young child, but also help us to appreciate that, at least for me anyway, I'm not sort of, have it all mixed up, as they say, because today's effort in painting a wall with some friends, by the end of the day, we'll see the wall has been painted from white to grey. But rearing a child in education and expertise, it might take a little bit longer. And I wonder if we don't have the patience that 20 years from now doesn't fit in with the political cycle. That 20 years from now, we have to wait for that tree to mature to bear fruit. We want it now. Pop it in the microwave, guy. I'm ready for my turkey. Is that a problem?
Well, that's the thing with investment in early childhood. It's actually preventative, so for governments around the world, they need to be able to convince the public that the investment they're making is going to prevent problems or at least minimize future problems, which is harder to show than when you actually have a problem and the government's addressing it. And so that, and, you know, there's a huge amount of research on the importance of investment in early childhood. And the United Nations has now said it's an essential requisite for sustainable development. And it's also, in my opinion, like a moral and ethical responsibility for any society to look after their youngest citizens because they don't have a voice. In fact, in the first couple of years, they can't even really tell anyone what kind of care they're receiving every day. And so as a result, they need us collectively to look out for them and ensure that they're getting the optimal experiences they need and deserve to thrive. And I think that is a collective adult responsibility.
It's kind of why sometimes, and I know I say it deliberately, to sort of ask those closest to me to revisit why we say it so that it does not become a cliche. This thing that I think, I call her former President Hillary. I'm sure her husband would have said, yep, she was the president. She would talk about, and it was her that I equate with it. It's not her phrase. She gives credit to where it first emanated. But she talked about the village raising a child.
Yeah.
It is, and it was, but for some reason now that has become a cliche and we banter it. But there's no action. There is no ownership. There is no overt, direct, deliberate sort of taking up and ensuring that the village, I'm sure from my friends from everywhere, they had the same experience. There were no cell phones. There were no emails. You could be in one part of the village or the district, and by the time you got home, whether you were living in Trinidad or some part of Zimbabwe or you were in Grand Cayman, your parents knew what you were up to.
Yeah, in a small community.
Community. So now that we have all this technology, we're more disconnected.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you just brought up it takes a village to raise a child, because that's the theme for our Week of the Young Child.
Did I know that?
I don't think you did know that.
No,
that's quite amazing.
Yeah.
What a coincidence. But that is our message this year, is that collective adult responsibility, including, you know, sponsorship and support from the private sector here as well. But, you know, there's been a lot of amazing work done here in the Cayman Islands in early childhood, which definitely deserves to be noted and celebrated. But the thing about the early childhood sector, and this is in every country around the world, it's very challenging. It has a lot of unique issues. It's connected with, everything to involve with young children and raising these young children, and even women's rights, employment issues, even support for any kind of social problems and linking families. You know, it's the first point of contact for many families and children with the wider society. And as a result, early childhood teachers have a huge responsibility to link families in need to the services that are available to them. So, which requires, sophisticated skills to be able to share information with parents and link them in a way that is strength-based and reassuring and understanding, and that's a really tough thing to do.
As I listen to you, sometimes I know with a question, we'll hear a word and we think it's just semantics. And sometimes it is. But other times we'll hear a word like ideals, idealistic, idealism, or you're an idealist. And it's a negative connotation. But if you don't have something that is so important, something that you look at and you say, if we achieve that, that's not just a significant milestone that'll raise the bar. And we have all these phrases, but yet to pursue it, that person is looked at, pie in the sky, it's a pipe dream, but a head in the clouds.
Yeah.
But yet we accept, a rising tide floats all ships. What is it where is that disconnect where we say we have this ideal, we want this thing that is so great, it's going to take effort and sacrifice and service and commitment and, collaborative approach.
Yeah.
But nobody's willing to step up. And when they do, they're ridiculed and relegated to the margins for being an idealistic person.
Yeah. I mean, I think ideals are something that you strive for.
Right.
And I think you're bringing up presidents and comments they've made in speeches is Kennedy's Ripple of Hope speech. Obviously it wasn't in this context, but I think it can be applied, that same idea of one little ripple, and then you start a movement. And the early childhood movement has been going on for, our association is more than 25 years old, but when Rena Jefferson and Lorna Blackman and Renee Barnes and Shauna Haylock started this association, 27 years ago now, it was really quite forward thinking. Early childhood kind of was lost at that time in many countries in between being part of the ministries of social services or social development type ministries and being part of ministries of education. Now, in many countries, they've shifted to ministries of education. But it's not the same as elementary school or later secondary school. Early childhood is quite unique and complex and probably more comprehensive. And sometimes early childhood can get lost or lumped in with elementary education when it really does require specialized knowledge and special treatment. It has unique issues. A preschool doesn't look the same as an elementary classroom, and nor should it. And we know that from the research.
Yeah. And what's interesting, I'm thankful that I've managed to understand this, many moons ago. But we would think that a small child, you're only 3 foot high and, you only need a small space, whereas here's a 6 foot student in high school, you need a larger space, when actually the inverse is true. Yeah. That small child needs a larger space, needs to be more active. Yeah. And it's almost, that doesn't make sense, but it does.
Oh, absolutely. Because what they need to be doing more than anything else, there's 2 major drives they have, right? It's for relationship and attachment and connection with those around them, particularly their primary caregivers, and then exploration through play. And children need room to play, and they can play anywhere too. That's the other thing, young children can play with anything. I have a talk that I give on the importance of playing. I got pictures from all around the world of children playing, taking an old oil can and putting bottle caps on it to make a car, and playing soccer or football with a box. And children will play and no matter how difficult adults make it or how difficult their situations make it for them, they will find a way to play. People look at play like it's a luxury or a reward for children or a break, but it's actually a powerful drive, and it's an essential way for them to make sense of their world. And there's no substitute for it. It's the primary means of driving brain growth and development. And it's also intrinsically motivating, so it's a big part of the child's well-being. So play is disappearing, for the reasons that you said earlier on in this discussion, especially technology and community may be being impacted, certainly by technology. Everyone's not out. I think it was Lorna or Rena or both that told me when where their kids were young, after church, everyone would go down here, like in downtown to the beach there after church, and there would be many families together, and they'd all be playing. And the children, there's nothing better than sand and ocean for young children. And they would all play there as a community, and now and maybe it still happens, but maybe not to the degree. And it's the same, in many countries where I've lived, the communities not as much as it used to be, and that does impact young children because those opportunities for community and connection are really important for them.
And I think that's why that notion of safety and nurturing, whether it's the home, the school, or the wider community, it needs to be such that child is free to move. When we come back from the break, I always welcome your your presence, and it always inspires me and reminds me of how important education is. But it's all encompassing. It's not just that formal instruction in the classroom or university. It's those early days at home. All right, after the break, we'll continue the discussion. And guess what I want? Yeah, you got it right. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard the news? Digicel is back with exciting offers that are too good to resist. Activate one of our brand new prepaid or postpaid plans today and experience telecommunications like never before. With more data, dedicated entertainment options like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, and endless social text data for all your favorite platforms. Digicel is here to make sure you stay connected and entertained. Whether you are on a prepaid or postpaid, you will also enjoy dedicated roaming data for the USA, Canada, and the Caribbean. It's all about value, and Digicel has got you covered.
You know who this is? That same old girl that went to Hollywood and Panama? Well, guess what? The fun ain't done yet, because this year, I'm going to country concerts in Denver. I got kick up my heels in Times Square, and I got find my way to Barbados. I got keep living the dream with Cayman Airways. We so blessed to have them. I tell you what, though, this old girl's feeling younger than ever.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering international non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, Denver, Los Angeles, Panama, Kingston, Mobay, La Ceiba, and Havana, plus Barbados. Enjoy free rum punch, free in-flight entertainment, free seat selection, and free meals on select flights. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
At the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan, helping people plan for retirement is at the heart of what we do. To help improve our member experience, we would like to receive feedback from our members and employers. Send us your feedback on the overall experience and suggestions for improvements by email at pensions@chamberpension.ky or by calling 743-9125 or 745-9130. We are committed to improving member experience, which helps you make more informed decisions that lead to better pension saving outcomes. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We are here for you.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh. Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to Miss Nicola Williams for joining us as president of the Cayman Islands Early Childhood Association. And your reference of Miss Shauna, Miss Rena, Miss Renee, and the like, there are without question many, in that era and today who contribute. But I wanted to ask, as we, invite you to share with us not only activities, but what can we do as a people, as a country, to see that if we don't do this, we may see the negative consequences sooner than if we did it. We'll see the positive benefits. And I wonder if that's what causes us in the world in which we live to, no, that could take too long, I wouldn't mind that wonderful tasting, starch mango, but that tree's going to take 20 years to mature.
Yeah.
And if that affects our willingness to make sacrifices.
Well, what every community can do is ensure that young children get the early experiences and care that they need and deserve to thrive, which again, there's this temptation with early childhood to look to preparation for later, and school readiness and things like this. And there's been a lot of research on school readiness and what it looks like, but there's still a misunderstanding amongst the general public that school readiness looks like knowing your letters, knowing your numbers, knowing your shapes. And what we've found out from the research over the last, many decades is it's not. It's things like self-regulation, sociability, verbal intelligence. And there's been a movement, even for the last 30 years, and we call it in the research schoolification, where we push down curriculum and teaching methods and learning activities that are more appropriate for older children onto younger children. Our intentions have been good. We wanted to give them a boost or a head start. But what the research has shown is not only does it not give them the head start that we want, it also stresses them out. And stress is the most important thing for young children. Young children can experience a certain amount of stress, manageable stress, and it's important for them to learn how to experience that stress and respond to it and calm themselves down. But when they are faced with constant stressful environment, they get what we call toxic stress, which interferes with brain growth and development, including at that time, the architecture of the brain. So what I would advise to any community is focus on relationship and exploration. Read with your children, talk to your children. We talk about warm, responsive caregiving and serve and return interactions. So many times children are serving something out, whether it's an infant doing a coo or a babble or kicking their legs, or a young child saying, look at me, or look what I, and we want to make sure we give them the right amount of returns.
Yeah.
Too few returns is neglect. We don't want to give them too many returns, which you could maybe argue is sort of a variation on helicopter parenting. But you want to be in that space where you're giving them just the right amount of returns for their serves to make sure that you promote the healthiest growth and development for them.
And I imagine, like anything, it has to be accurate, timely, and so like that return. Child does something, you're not over the top and congratulate them just because the child, stuck up her finger.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you. And yet we do that.
Yeah.
And then ending everything, well, you get a prize, you get a prize, you get a prize. Nothing becomes of value. I say that to ask, in a sense, as we look at our communities, I wonder if we, just through the terminology, you talk about schoolification, without knowing what it is, it sounds, you get a lot of school, it sounds good, edification, education. And then social promotion. Oh, great. Another wonderful term until you understand what it means.
Yeah.
Little Johnny is now 15, is graduated, and ready to go into work, but can't read or write.
Yeah.
Not even functionally literate, but because, he celebrates a birthday every year, he goes from one grade to the next.
And you can make a strong argument for many of the problems that you see in elementary and secondary school, tracing that back to the care they received, particularly in the first 3 years. And so again, schoolification, it's counterintuitive. Like, you think if we sit down and have them do worksheets and have them sit in a big circle and crisscross applesauce, hands in your lap, fingers on your mouth, no talking, and then we look at if you go into a preschool classroom and you want to predict which of the children there will be successful, it will be the ones who have the verbal intelligence, the sociability, and the self-regulation. They're able to calm themselves down when they're in any kind of a stressful situation. And the only way, the primary way they learn those things is by having opportunities to talk, being in a rich environment that's rich in not just language but print as well, and then being in an environment where they play and explore together with other children, with adults who are attentive and responsive and give them just as much help as they need to feel successful.
You said something about reading with your children as a friend. I mean, I feel so bad that we're disconnected now because of life and actions. And as an educator, she shared one of her regrets, as much as she used to read with her daughter, when the daughter became in her early teens and was a very, very, very skilled, precocious reader, as it were, she stopped reading with her and reading to her because, you're a big girl now, you can read. And it wasn't just a book club where they read and share. It was actually what you did when you're first teaching that child of yours to read. And I've reflected that many times, because if you read with and read to, it develops something that is only evident perhaps 30 years down the road.
Yeah.
Right?
Reading with your children is critical. And enjoying a book. I remember my sister, her son entered, I don't know, I think it was a preschool, maybe age 4. And she used to love, she works hard, she's a single parent, and she would sit on the couch with her 2 children, who were 3 and 5, and read a beautiful story with them. But she said to me, I'm getting these photocopied books, you know, the dog ran, the cat, whatever. And I'm being asked to read these. And I, you know, what am I supposed to do? I said, you know, you can do that with your child, but not at the expense of a beautiful interaction, a special time before bed where you sit with your children on either side and read a story. It can't be in place of that, you know, so it's a question of balance too.
My father did two things that I only now appreciate more and more each day. He would give me the newspaper, and I would read it. It's usually the sports section, and you know I share this with close friends. And for a while, I mean I'm 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't think he could read. Why am I reading it?
Yeah.
Only then did I realize, thankfully, very quickly, he must have read it already because I'll get to a word, and I didn't know, and he knew it, so he, you know, we chat about it. But he also would tell us stories, and the most imaginative, creative things. And I can see my mother now saying, you know, oh, you can spin a yarn, try to get the children to bed. And he's telling us these stories. I've done the same with my children.
Yeah.
And they will hang on to every word.
Yeah.
So that creative, imaginative thing,
yeah,
although it skipped me somewhat, I'm glad that I had some exposure and now I have an appreciation for it.
Yeah.
I say that to ask, when you shared just now those formative years, you know, the 3 years old and the primary caregiver, I look at other countries where, whether it's Japan, that child can independently at a very early age leave the house, take the public transport from the train to the tram and get to school because the village is ensuring that child is safe.
Yeah.
To what little I know again about the Nordic countries where, you know what, you're 5, 6 and 7, you're not starting formal school yet. There's that time.
Yeah.
And in the Cayman context where we contract the rearing of our children to an outside source, not talking about the nationality or the personality or the character as important as they may be, and in fact in the child's sort of disposition, but where are we as the community and as a parent to imprint on the child? And then what are those consequences, you know, a generation later? Have we considered that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting about, you know, parenting. There's especially when the children, I would argue that you need to know more when they're very little than you need to know when they're older, interestingly enough, you know, because there's so much that goes into the caregiving and understanding how important, you know, a small child makes 1 million connections in their brain per second.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who don't know that would look at a newborn and think, well, what can they possibly be doing, right? They're lying there. But when you know this and you look at them, like they just fascinate me because you can see, you know, especially when they gaze at you, like a newborn just gazes, and you can almost see these neurons, these million connections happening if you know about it. And then you know how important it is to interact with that baby. And too, you know, with again, technology interferes with that as well, especially when the children are young. But even what you talked about with your dad in the newspaper, those are the kinds of things that children respond to. And just talk to your child, narrate what you're doing. If you're at the bank machine, answer, you know, there are questions, right? Why? Answer them. You know, I know you can't answer all of them, and there are realities, and we're busy, and but answer as many as you can, because and respond to what they share with you, because that is the best school. If you want them to succeed in life, that's the best way to do it.
A friend, he told me, he said, you know, one of the reasons he believes why parents, teachers, adults, why they don't want the children to ask questions, because it reveals how little they actually know. All right, let's pause and take a break. And Ms. Nicola, when you come back, always enjoy learning from you. Thanks for sharing. So to our listeners, please stay tuned.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
You know who this is? That same old girl that went to Hollywood and Panama? Well, guess what? The fun ain't done yet, because this year, I'm going to country concerts in Denver. I got kick up my heels in Times Square, and I got find my way to Barbados. I got keep living the dream with Cayman Airways. We so blessed to have them. I tell you what, though, this old girl feeling younger than ever.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering international non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, Denver, Los Angeles, Panama, Kingston, Mobay, La Ceiba, and Havana, plus Barbados. Enjoy free rum punch, free in-flight entertainment, free seat selection, and free meals on select flights. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Discover your dream home with Cayman National's home loan. Get up to 95% financing, repayment up to 40 years, and just a 0.5% commitment fee. Your interest rate? Depending on your risk factors, it'll be fixed or variable. Plus, you get a pre-approved credit card. This is a limited time offer. Dial 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Buttontown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin are the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Buttontown. Live happy, live healthy with ValueMed Pharmacy.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Let me tell you something. I've been fishing our island since I was a boy, and it's getting harder and harder to get a good catch. Maybe it's because there are so many more people in Cayman than ever before. Maybe it's because of how the climate is changing. I don't know about that, but I do know that I want to be able to keep fishing and teach my children to fish one day as well. So it makes sense to me that we have certain areas and certain times of the year to fish for certain things. It feels unfair not to be allowed to fish where my dad taught me to fish, but I know that being patient now means we can keep fishing for many more generations. We're all in this together, right?
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for us, and thanks to Ms. Nicola Williams for sitting with us. And I believe that in the previous discussions, the many that we've had, we can and should continue to have these, you and your other colleagues, and hopefully as a society we'll take up the mantle, we'll join, and assist in a way that we see the benefits. I wanted to ask though, as you were sharing, I was led to think back to a comment I heard way back when. It was in reference to, at that time, South American nations, given the political turmoils of the day, and someone said, oh, those countries with a Ministry of Justice are usually the ones without. And I wonder, Ministry of Education from the UK to other places that have that terminology, I wonder if it's just a lot of wordplay, if it's just lip service, that yes, there's a Ministry of Education, but is there really any ministry in education and any education in the ministry? Now, not to be political, not to cast aspersions, nothing like that, but it has to be more than just talk.
Yeah. And I think, too, the Ministry of Education here formed the Early Childhood Care and Education Unit, which was a wonderful step. And that, I think that was 2012. And then in 2014, the Cayman Islands Early Years Curriculum Framework came out, so which, again, was huge. It was a research-based, developmentally appropriate. It's still the national curriculum for early childhood, and it's a wonderful document. It's made huge change. So has all the professional learning that followed its implementation or went along with its implementation. Another huge step from the Ministry of Education is we have the Office of Education Standards who are doing the school inspections, but what's most exciting for early childhood is the new document. There's a new inspection document that's specific to early childhood, which was so exciting for us because, again, many countries around the world, like I said, in many ways lump early childhood into elementary. But what the OES has done here is separate it off and respect the fact that it is a unique stage of education, and looking at quality looks different than looking at quality in elementary classrooms. So, you know, we're really grateful to the team there. Althea Booth and Carol Bennett's been hugely instrumental there, and Jessica Jackson, and of course Nicholas Sheridan. The team there has just done such wonderful work, and they really did consult the front lines too in the creation of this document. So they didn't just look at sort of global expertise in early childhood, but they also consulted, you know, what you might call the front lines, and really heard about and tried to address many of the issues that are facing early childhood. So it's exciting to see that being rolled out now, and because inspection frameworks are not just about the inspection, they also serve, and this one in particular serves as a guideline for high quality practice. It's very detailed, which I love too, because it serves as a guide for preschools to be able to work towards that high quality that all the children sort of need and deserve.
And this is where, as I listened to you, reminded us some time back, you know, of the return. I know in investments, or like we talk about ROI, and yet in education, there is a significant return. Now, you have it, I'm sure, to really recall. For every dollar spent, research has indicated that we get back how much?
$8 to $13, depending on the child's home environment. So early childhood, more than any other stage of education, has a huge compensatory value for children living in challenging home environments. And that's where you really see the difference. So it depends on a lot of things. It obviously depends on the quality of the early childhood program, because low quality early childhood programs can be detrimental to young children. So that, you know, the return on investment is specific to high quality programs that give children these opportunities for play and exploration and relationship that they need. So schoolified programs, or programs that are too schoolified, are stressful for young children. They wouldn't fall in the category that promotes these wonderful outcomes. But it also depends on how the economists look at the return on investment. So sometimes they would include mothers being able to enter the workforce, for example. But basically, the savings that you get in the country are in the criminal justice system, which is huge, social welfare, which is a huge cost to any government, remedial education, those kinds of things, educational attainment. It's all from early childhood. And there was a very famous study done by a man by the name of David Weikart, who was actually a high school principal, and he said, I see these children and they've been given the opportunities, and I know they have the same ability, and one's achieving and one isn't. And his theory was that it went back to early childhood, and he did one of the probably most cited studies of all time. And the economists on that study that did that work, it started in the 70s, just outside Detroit. He's the one, James Heckman, who went on to win the Nobel laureate for his work on investment in early childhood, looking at investment in children by age and return on that investment. And it's the highest prenatally and newborn, and then it drops steadily down through early childhood. And yet most countries are investing in children the exact opposite way, because we're waiting for problems before we address them, you know, and so again, coming back to what we started with, you know, it's important to educate the public on this huge opportunity to create happy, healthy, resilient young children who have the brain architecture in place and the foundation in place to be successful. And it's interesting too, neuroscience has been a real influence on early child development and turning the world's attention towards it. Even if you look at violent prisoners who have been convicted of a violent crime, if they had a negative, challenging home environment when they were young, their actual architecture of their brain is different from other, even violent criminals who did not have a challenging home environment, which is quite fascinating, really. So it shows that the quality of the home environment, we call them ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and the number of ACEs young children might have. So things like a violent neighborhood, domestic violence, hunger, those kinds of things, poverty stressors, that impacts their ability to thrive, you know, and their well-being.
You know, increasingly, enjoy when I read and I see, acronyms and the like, and I keep questioning, ACE.
Yeah.
You want an ace. You want an ace in the hole. You're
It's
playing
probably
cards.
not the best acronym because it means the exact opposite.
And I wonder sometimes if we're deliberate, somehow when we bring these things together. And there are many others like that has, when you understand what it means, it's not a good thing. But just listening to it, you think it is, right? Yeah. And I started to ask, and in the end of the day, as we look at what is happening, we're going to close the gate after the horse is bolted. We're putting the cart before the horse.
That's
right.
That's one for early child. That's one for schoolification.
School, right? But yet we continue to do that, just as you shared.
Yeah.
That investment in prenatal into that early childhood decreases. Yet we start, from that early child at maybe 15 to 16 and invest in more. Yeah. We've got it, backwards, as it were.
Yeah. And even too when it comes to whether it comes to investment by age and whether it comes to the type of experiences we're providing for young children, I think one thing, back to what you were saying earlier, is I think we take for granted the fact that you have a newborn baby and then you have a 4-year-old, and the amount they have had to learn from getting from a newborn to a 4-year-old. We will never learn more than that for the rest of our lives. Yeah. And neuroscience even shows that. And yet we just take it for granted. Okay, yeah, they were a newborn and now they're 4. But the amount they've had to learn about their social and physical environment, that's all new to them, and the short amount of time they've been here in this world with us, it's quite extraordinary. They are incredible learners. Yeah. They have more connections in their brain than adults do. And we need to respect and appreciate it more and more support them in this massive job they have to do, rather than trying to impose what we want to teach them, what we think, and just trust that nature has programmed them to be extraordinary learners. And you were talking about the questions they ask. They're building theories constantly. And everything they do, and play included, is social, emotional, physical, cognitive, language. It's all integrated learning. They don't go to math class or English class or science class. They're learning all that all at the same, and social and emotional too, in everything they do. If we just take a step back and support them and understand that and support them in their enormous task,
What I'm hearing, maybe there needs to be a new social paradigm, and maybe our approach needs to be revisited. Yeah. I want to invite you, as we've always done, and the team to come back and we continue this discussion, so that hopefully, I always think if something is good, it's good doing again. Repetition helps us to, not just be reminded, but somehow to adopt. The week of the young child is,
yes.
And my guy is like, keep talking. No, he's like, oh, we ought to break.
Oh, okay. We need a break.
What are we doing, my friend? He's like, we got to end the show, man. We talked so much, we didn't even get to all we had to. We had to come back on again, right?
Yeah.
So the week of the young child kicks off.
So very exciting. It starts this Sunday, April 7th, with an extravaganza at the New Testament Church of God from 4 to 6 p.m. And various preschools around the island are coming to do an item. It's a lovely event of music and singing and dance and musical arts. And it's the kickoff for our week of celebrations. And then throughout the week, there are activities in schools. Monday is in-school music, dance, and song to keep the momentum going from the extravaganza. Tuesday is bedtime story reading day with Life. Life partners with us in the Week of the Young Child, which is very exciting. And Wednesday, April 10th, is Work Together Wednesday. So we talking about social skills and having a focus on that. Not that we shouldn't focus on that all the time. And play. And Thursday is Tasty Thursday. Cooking is a wonderful activity to do with young children. And then Friday, April 12th, is just fun and play and celebrations all day. And getting ready for, on Saturday, April 13th, is our Georgetown Parade. We do it every year. It's an amazing event. The Cayman Islands Scout Band, which is a volunteer organization, comes out and they make the parade. And all children and their families and their teachers and their preschools all come out with banners. And we march from Bayshore Mall, where we meet at 7:30 a.m. All members of the community are welcome. And we start off from there. We walk down by the water, by the ocean, and end up on the steps of the government building, where we sing "We Are the World Together." It's a lovely event. So I really hope it will get the biggest turnout ever. I'd like to give a shout out to our wonderful sponsors, Williams Squared. They sponsored our event last year for our parade in Cayman Brac, which we're doing again this year. And Kirk Supermarket has been wonderful about donating. We give every child a gift bag with an apple, a water, some bubbles, and of course, a book. And so we thank Williams Squared and Kirk Supermarket for their generous sponsorship, because it wouldn't be able to happen without it. And then the last Sunday, April 14th, is a trip to Cayman Brac for a church service and a parade there. So, and that's the sort of grand finale of our week of celebrations.
You know, this is where the community makes it, and those corporate partners, they not only have to defray the cost, but perhaps they provide a platform that provides greater access. Ms. Nicola, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No better time than now to be alive, and no better time to do something than when you're alive. Yeah. I'm going to pause, and when we get to the news, we invite you. Mario Ebanks will be our guest. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Yesterday,
Today,
always and forever.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Local, regional, international news.
The Ministry of Education, or MOE, and the Department of Environment Services, DES, have released the 2022-2023 Education Data Report, highlighting positive gains in achievement among secondary school students, particularly in core subjects. MOE Acting Chief Officer Ms. Lynette Monteith said they're encouraged by the data, especially the 13.3 and 12.6 percentage point increases in English and math passes, respectively, for Year 11 students. Good afternoon. I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Europe and the U.S. need each other and are stronger together, the Secretary General of NATO has said. Jens Stoltenberg was speaking at a ceremony marking the alliance's 75th anniversary. While the U.S. provided Europe with security, he said it also needed the military's intelligence and diplomatic leverage of its European allies. And NFL star Rashee Rice has apologized for his role in a hit-and-run crash which took place on Saturday that left 2 people injured. He said he takes full responsibility for his part in the matter and will continue to cooperate with the necessary authorities. He posted this on Wednesday. Police in Dallas, Texas say 2 speeding cars, a Lamborghini and Corvette, caused a chain reaction collision that damaged 4 more cars. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
The Health Services Authority has over 120 world-class physicians offering the most comprehensive range of specialist services on island. Our dedicated team of professionals provide the highest quality care in orthopedics, interventional radiology, women's health, geriatrics, and a host of other specialist areas. We are a JCI-accredited organization with a proven record of excellence. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you. For more information, visit hsa.ky.
Born in Watering Place, Cayman Brac, on the 8th day of July, 1936, Captain Fred Elman Scott was the 5th child born to Nalio and Vera Scott. Not only did Captain Scott work the seas for over 52 years, but he was mathematically inclined. In the early 70s, Captain Scott received his first calculator, eventually moving on to computers. After retiring from sea, Captain Scott used his knowledge of navigation, his love for mathematics, and general knowledge to write various computer programs that would impact the lives of the people of the Cayman Islands, such as payroll calculation and a program that could tell the depths at any point of the Georgetown Harbor, which would allow him to give any ship in port the coordinates to drop anchor. However, his pride and joy was his weather program that could detect when a storm formed anywhere in the world, and was able to track and forecast its path. To create this program, he first drew the world map by using actual coordinates from the various coastlines around the world, including the most minute coves. This information would be transmitted by his shipping mates from around the world, making him the local reliable source on storm predictions.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us as we get into a discussion with Mr. Mario Ebanks. And for you who don't know what an E is, it's not Ebanks. I want to say again a special thanks to the Cayman Islands Early Childhood Association, and as Miss Nicola Williams as the president, paid homage to Miss Renee, and Miss Shauna, and Miss Rena. There are many others who set the stage and paved the way, but who continue that investment in our children at that early, very formative years. Even before they start, formal school, before they start preschool, from the womb, that prenatal pays dividends. So, to all of our educators, thank you. To our parents who invest and partner. I say that in asking, the good company of Mr. Mario Ebanks for joining us. That is probably the bridges that, bind societies. The concepts of nation building, cathedral builders, whatever terminology we ascribe to it, it's making a sacrifice and laying the foundation for future generations. We ourselves may not benefit. We may not, live to see this thing come to fruition. But it's not unlike the tree that is planted. If you don't nurture it, take care of it, it's probably those first few years of getting established and weathering the storms that tree may come into its own, and you can enjoy its shade or the mango, or as you would love me to say, the mango. The mango. So, not to be so philosophical, but always be pensive. Not to be political, but to be public, and not to be a person who just speaks in a vacuum, but to be one who is willing to invite participation, ownership, collaboration, but accountability and responsibility. So let's get it on.
You're very philosophical, so that's good. And Dwayne, thanks very much Sterling Dwayne, thanks very much for having me on the station, inviting me here today, and Radio Cayman, and to all the listeners in Cayman Islands and around the world, and on the live streaming platforms wherever you are. I just wanted to talk today about a couple of important issues, and I know that that you are very learned as well, so you'll guide us through our discussion. It's always good to talk to you because you're very deep and philosophical. And I've been hearing some, shall we say, chatter in recent months, and also some alarming indications from people, especially some of the young people and young families and the like. And I think it's important for us to have these mature conversations about some of these big issues, and to try to have mutual understanding of some of these things that we need. Like you introduced me earlier, Mario Ebanks, which I appreciate that. I know there's another Mario that comes in the station as well, very, very bright young man as well. People often confuse the two of us.
It's probably because you look alike so much, you sound alike. I mean, you seem height.
Well, they keep, some people saying to me, oh, I love to hear in the radio, and, and say this and say that. And I say, but wait a minute now, that's not necessarily Mario Ebanks. I think I'd be the other Mario, which is Mario Rankin. But today you have Mario Ebanks, and not to discount him, because he's also very, very capable, very learned.
Yeah, well, thank you for referencing that. I really appreciate when he and others accept the invitation to come on.
Mm-hmm.
People like Carol Lawrence and the like. People who are willing to stand in the gap and to share from a considered perspective. More often than not speaking to them specifically, more often than not when people do that, they get castigated publicly. They may be complimented privately, but they probably stand alone adrift out to sea. That needs to change. We need to draw alongside and say, listen, you're off base. Let me guide you. Or you know what? You're right, but you're not alone. We don't have each other's back. We're not supporting our spouses or children. We're not grabbing the politician and say, hey, guy, you got to drive home. Let me drive you home. But we got to plaster them over the front page.
Right.
That's wrong.
Yes. So what I would like for us to do today, Dwayne, if it's okay with you, is to talk a little bit about immigration and balance of our population, and those kind of subjects. Those are some I think some pain points that I'm sensing in the community. Not just now, but over the years. But it's getting to a point now where we need to really make sure that we don't do that Paul Keynes Douglas thing of
being on the precipice and making one bold step forward. Let's see if we can just rationalize the situation, have a mature conversation, and a step in the way forward. One of the things that I wanted to kind of use as a discussion today with you is the book Cayman Islands: History, Politics, and Society. For those watching on YouTube, you'll see the book here. It's a collection of essays in honor of J.A. Roy Bodden, edited by Livingston Smith and Stephanie Fullerton Cooper of the UCCI. And this book was actually created as a result of a symposium that was held in 2021. And the various papers from the symposium then went into this book. And this is really a collector's item. It's a coffee table, really treasured item. And it's available, actually, also, as you know. I think you have a copy or two, Dwayne. But it's available.
I do, yeah.
It's available from some of the bookstores, but also at UCCI. If you contact Mr. Livingston Smith or Ms. Stephanie Fullerton Cooper, you can get a copy. It's only $25, and it's really a really good deal. But in that book, in that publication, one of my papers got put into the chapter 19 of that book, and my chapter 19 is entitled Reform of the Labor and Human Capital Development Framework and Systems in the Cayman Islands. And I go through that chapter, first of all, by explaining what is human capital. And human capital is not necessarily a well-known term. You know about financial capital and relationship capital, but particularly financial capital. But human capital is very, very important for a company or for a country.
And as you share that, it probably speaks to our maybe lack of economics in our schools. The factors of production.
Right.
Isn't that one of them?
That is exactly right.
Land, labor. All right.
That's right.
We
That's right.
ignore that significant aspect, but again,
yes. Sure. No, that is a very good point. One of the things that I pointed out in the chapter in the book, chapter 19, is in looking at some of the benefits of proper human capital management in an organization. It says that companies with superior human capital policies can more than double the shareholder value than companies with average human capital practices. And also says in the research, great human capital practices prevail regardless of economic conditions. So I go through that as the introduction to the chapter in the book. One of the other areas in the chapter that I touch upon is the rationale for reform and the obstacles facing the existing institutional framework. And by that framework, what I mean, Dwayne, is to do with immigration or now work, labor, and training in the education system and the tertiary education system, the whole kind of all aspects of what makes that human capital cycle work. In the book, I say that that young Caymanian intellectuals and professionals are becoming disillusioned by our unbridled economic growth, especially when marginalized in their career progression. And I commented in my chapter, it says, many college graduates are not being assimilated into suitable jobs in their fields, and experienced workers are becoming frustrated and demoralized because of the absence of best practices in human capital development in many organizations, not in all, but in many, right? Some people are choosing not to return home once they complete university. Some Caymanian students are doing that, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here today, because I see it and I hear it, and I'm very concerned about it. Many others are talking about moving away from Cayman, and such a brain drain could be damaging. So I say in the chapter that just as a country that is a military power must invest in its military might, Cayman Islands, being a service economy where skills, productivity, and efficiency are key inputs, must invest heavily in the Caymanian human capital. I go on in the chapter, and again, to those who are just signing in, the book is entitled Cayman Islands: History, Politics, and Society, essays in honor of J.A. Roy Bodden that's available at UCCI from Dr. Livingston Smith. But in that chapter 19, I go on to talk about Vision 2008. You remember that? Vision 2008?
I want to ask you about that because one of the things let me ask, no, that was an exercise many in the country participated in, extensive engagement. We are now 2024. Is that still timely? Is it that it's been so long ago that, it's all for naught?
Well, exactly. And that's why in my chapter I actually focused on Vision 2008. Vision 2008 was a 10-year strategic national plan. And it was involved a lot of people in our society, in the districts, young, old, Caymanian, non-Caymanian. People got together and just brainstormed a lot of these topics, and they had a project plan that they had to deal with subjects and strategic and plans and action plans and whatnot. But in Vision 2008, strategy 16, action plans 7 and 10, number 7 and number 10, proposed some reforms to the human capital infrastructure in the Cayman Islands, and one of them was the amalgamation of the Labour Department and the Immigration Board into a new Human Resources Authority with an executive director, an industry representative advisory board, and a more transparent reporting arrangement. That's taken directly from Vision 2008. The other recommendation made in action plans 7 and 10 was formulation of a comprehensive training and succession planning policy applying to both the public and private sectors. So you'll see that, we have a lot of pillars to stand on if we would only actually use those and build the country from good to great. So what I said in my paper is that there should be an independent review of the framework, and to create a new Human Capital Development Act or a law, now called Act, and that would set the basis for doing this amalgamation of these agencies, setting in place their objectives, and like any other act or law, create accountability. Because what we have now, which is we call it Workforce Opportunities Residency Cayman, which was a migration from the Immigration Board, which was a migration from the Caymanian Protection Board. It's really a 1972 model that we're trying to retrofit into 2024. And we know that using volunteers, using members of the board who are, in their careers or in their businesses, sometimes they're conflicted because of interests, and sometimes they don't have time to meet. It's a lot of work to expect these volunteers to do that, and we need to really move beyond that if we're serious about building our country. So in my and I can't go through the whole book or chapter today because it's quite a bit, but I just wanted to kind of highlight some of these things for folks and encourage people to get a copy of the book and read the entire chapter. But I talk about how to go around creating this new structure of this new authority and this new law to govern it. I also talk about in the chapter some other what I call human capital development support mechanisms. One of them was to build upon something that was actually recommended a few years ago called, you remember it well because you talked about it in the show for years, the employer accreditation system. What that is a system or a scheme where you have a set of requirements for employers, right? And the idea was that you would sign up to this employer accreditation system, and you would be assessed. And if you meet all of the requirements, it would mean that you're like an employer of choice. You'll get some benefits from being a part of that, and you get your work permits fast-tracked because they know that you're doing the right things in terms of training of Caymanians, succession planning, and best practices in the workplace, and all those things. That was the basis for this employer accreditation system. It was setting the kind of expectations, and I think that has gone around in different iterations over the years. They said they were going to launch it. They had a pilot, and nothing happened, and they'd gone quiet. Then they say a couple of years ago they're going to bring it out again. It's just going nowhere. And it is a good concept, but I don't know if it doesn't have a champion to push it, or whether it is not a priority, or whether it is being held in abeyance on purpose because you know it would work and you don't want it to work. But I think it's a good tool that could be used, and very effective if it was put in place. The other thing, the other support mechanisms to all of this is something that we call a culture of compliance. And when I was Director of Labour and Pensions, you remember, Dwayne, I came on the show, you were kind enough, and radio came on to have me on every month talking about, we had something called the clinic, I think it was called the Best Practice Clinic, or the Labour Advisory Clinic, or something of that nature we called it, but it was something we came every month and talked about labour and pension issues. And we talked about this culture of compliance. And what that was, and we actually developed it during that time, as the minister, Tara Rivers, was the minister then. And I think actually even before that, Ralston Anglin was the minister, and it was started. And we're I think it kind of survived part of two premiers. But what it was is that you had a kind of connectivity between immigration boards, trade and business licensing, pension board, and health insurance commission, so that you have some way of some checks and balances. So if somebody was not paying their pensions, they'd have a difficult time getting permits renewed, or they have a difficult time getting their trade and business license renewed, or vice versa. If they were not complying with immigration law, they were treating people poorly and had a lot of complaints against them in labour, similarly they would have some issues getting their licenses to operate. So it was a way of stopping some of these bad actors in their tracks. But politics being politics, sometimes some of these bad actors also have influence, so they would pressure their MLAs or MPs to kind of water down some of these processes, the checks and balances, and so that culture of compliance sort of fell away because I guess it wasn't popular for some people. But it was a good way of ensuring that you had some connectivity, Dwayne, and you had some way of enforcing the laws. Because if you go to court, it takes a long time. You got to get evidence, and you got to get a court space, and you got to get time and all that. But if you had a way of, and this culture of compliance was actually part of administrative fines as well, because the pension legislation that we were revising at the time had in place administrative fines, which has now happened. I believe the Trade and Business Licensing Act also had administrative fines, and also the Immigration Act. And so it was part of that you could actually have these fines, but you also have this way of stopping people and detecting people, and then you could say, all right, you can't get your permit until you get this thing sorted out, or you could also get a fine, right? So that's another area of looking at how to enforce the law and to bring about proper human capital development. In my chapter, in my paper in the book, I also talked about how to look at the labor systems, how to reform labor systems. So on the one hand, we talked about looking at Vision 2008, developing the Human Capital Authority, developing a Human Capital Development Act or law, but also looking at all the other parts of it as well. And I just talked about a few. But the other areas we talked about was reform to the labor tribunals and the labor secretariat. I don't know how well you know about the labor tribunals, Mr. Dwayne, but again, we got people who are members that are retired, and they're busy, they're overworked, and these are volunteers. And one of the things that we recommended here is that you reform that to create a full-time paid labor commission or judge, and who would hear all the properly processed complaints that were sent to the Labor Tribunal Secretariat, and that person would be supported by staff as well. And I also suggested in the chapter that relocate the Labor Appeals Tribunal to the Commission Secretariat, because Commission Secretariat has a number of tribunals now. Put them all under one roof. So you have the labor tribunals would be moved from a voluntary system to a system of a paid labor commissioner or a judge, but the tribunals would be moved under the Commission Secretariat, and they would actually run the appeals tribunal as they normally do, as they do now with things like the planning appeals, etc. So, what the chapter does is talks about institutional building and strengthening, but the chapter ends up talking about nation building, and it makes two recommendations. One recommendation was to direct the labor and human capital management strategies would be to commission a national skills gap survey and analysis. A skills gap. So we'll know what kind of skills that are lacking in the workforce, and what are the economic industry trends. I mean, right now, for example, there's so much going on with technology, with artificial intelligence, AI. A lot of jobs that exist now may not exist 5 years from now. What are those jobs? What are the skills required for young people and others to be able to transition and to retool, right? So that's why doing a national skills gap survey and analysis would be important. And so, the fact is, Sterling, that once we have that kind of skills gap analysis, then we can put together a training and development plan to address the gaps that exist in our society. So that, my friend, there's some of the highlights of the chapter in the book. In the book, Cayman Islands History, Politics, and Society, the chapter that I wrote, that I feel strongly about. I feel strongly about it because our people and our young people, many of them are feeling disillusioned. We have a lot of wonderful young people in this country, and middle-aged people too, as a matter of fact, and elderly, but I'm thinking about the young people now. And we need to make sure that we're building a country where we're building it for the right reasons, and the question about who we're developing for, we make sure that these people have the skills and the institutional systems are there to support equal opportunity and preference for Caymanians, obviously. And so some of these suggestions that I have highlighted in this book, in this chapter, I think provide a sound way forward on human capital development in the country. And I ended up my chapter by referring to Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain's words when he spoke in May 1863 to his team of soldiers while preparing for the Battle of Little Round Top, a battle which proved critical to holding the Union line and victory in Gettysburg, a turning point in the American Civil War. And Chamberlain said, during that time, he said, "We know not the future and cannot plan for it much, but we can determine and know what manner of men we will be whenever and wherever the hour strikes." That was 1863. And I've said in this ending of this chapter that at that time, in 2021, that was 2024, that those words spoken by Chamberlain then must also be a clarion call for us to invest in human capital and support the infrastructure if we are to secure a robust economy for future generations of citizens and other stakeholders.
All right, with that, let's just take this break. When we come back, let's get into some of the substantive issues. You've been a very, very ardent public commentator, political aspirant and the like, and maybe through your continued actions, others will be encouraged. They'll find the courageousness to do some of the things, but we'll see that a community can only prosper if there's a sense of unity. I may endeavor to share some things. Let's see where it takes us, right?
Thank you.
Have a call. We'll take the break and then we'll take the call. Stay tuned.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh. Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard the news? Digicel is back with exciting offers that are too good to resist. Activate one of our brand new prepaid or postpaid plans today and experience telecommunications like never before. With more data, dedicated entertainment options like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, and endless social text data for all your favorite platforms. Digicel is here to make sure you stay connected and entertained. Whether you are on a prepaid or postpaid, you will also enjoy dedicated roaming data for the USA, Canada, and the Caribbean. It's all about value, and Digicel has got you covered.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
Every day, thousands of us use our roads.
I drive to work.
My dad drives me to school.
I make deliveries across the island.
But with every journey comes responsibility. Our actions behind the wheel can have serious consequences, so let's make a commitment to safety. The Cayman Islands government invites you to take the Safe Drivers Pledge. The pledge is our opportunity to show our dedication to creating a safer environment on our roads.
Do it for your community.
For your loved ones.
For yourself.
Let's make our roads safer together and say no more for 2024. Visit www.gov.ky/road safety for more information and to take the pledge.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to Mr. Mario Ebanks. I think many see you as someone who has the academic prowess, whose life to date has been about community service and initiative, and you've positioned yourself in a way that sort of the cards just align. Too much is given, to say much is required. I invite you to put in the freshly sanitized sets, as Miss Uni always keeps us in store, following the mantra of Miss Paulette. Mr. Ebanks, we do have a caller.
Okay.
We go to the phones. Hey, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne, and good afternoon, Mr. Ebanks.
Good afternoon, sir.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Well, first of all, today I want to do more listening than talking, so I will be very brief. But first of all, I will have to embarrass Mr. Ebanks here. Well, there are two Mr. Ebanks. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's true. They're good here.
I'll have to embarrass Mr. Mario a little bit because I really feel that I have to say that I've always been impressed and encouraged by his knowledge of matters relating to human resources, and it is great that he continues to promote those. And if I might throw in one other comment, the book that he's citing, I was privileged as well to make a contribution to that book in the area of judicial accountability. Just like he continues to fight on human resources, I've also continued to fight a little bit on the issue of the judiciary, because I think there's need for a lot of reform in that area, but that's not for today. By the way, that's part of the continuing kindness that people have shown me in Cayman to allow me to participate in some of these activities. But otherwise, I just called for a comment. I just read in CNS today some statistics relating to human resources in government. And if I remember correctly, one statistic says that the growth in numbers in terms of expatriate staff in the civil service has gone up in the last year or so, has gone up by about 13%, the expatriate staff. But the Caymanian staff in the government has only gone up by something like only 1%, and I was really, really appalled by that. I just wonder whether he has any comments about that in general, as well as how that statistic might fit in with some of the things that he's talking about today. I'll stop there, I'll hang up and listen some more.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I do have a comment, and I just want to thank that caller for his call and to say, his paper is actually entitled Accountability of Judges and Government Lawyers Falling Short of the Ideal, and it's chapter 24 of that same book. So he does have a very provocative and learned paper in the book as well. But to his question concerning the growth of non-Caymanians, I think, in the civil service and the public sector, that's a very good point, because one of the things I've been noticing in the last couple of years is that in particular industries, but across the board really, a number of people are leaving the private sector, and I know in the areas of healthcare, teaching, and IT and other areas, they're leaving jobs in the private sector when they're getting near their term limit, their 9-year term limit, and they're going over to the public sector and getting jobs, sometimes very senior jobs as well, but they're getting jobs there. But I'm told that, there's good conditions as well, but I'm told that one of the main motivators for that is that they want to bypass that rollover, that 9-year rollover, because government, the civil service, is not subjected to that, to the immigration law or work, in that people who are on government contracts pretty much just go to work or to border control and get their passport stamped, and there's no need for a work permit, or there's no rollover issue. My question is, and to that caller who just called, is that yes, we're seeing a growth in the numbers. That's one problem or one issue. The other issue is they're causing some pressure on the private sector employers because of that exodus or that migration to certain public sector employers. But the third issue is when the time comes, when they have spent 15, 16, 20 years on the island, say if they spend the first 8 in the public sector and the remainder in the first 8 in the private sector and the remainder in the public sector, when they also have the same claim to nationality or status or residency that they say that everybody else has. No, that's another subject for another day, because I want to talk to you at some point about that whole issue too, about how we deal with this residency and status issue. But I think that government is setting up themselves for a big surprise down the line that could be as proportionately significant as what happened in 2003 with the status fiasco, where a lot of people are going to be in the public sector thinking that they're bypassing something, and they are, but the country could end up having to award all those people with residency and status because of the fact that they're in a safe haven and they're accruing those years that they need to be able to achieve those rights. So that is a problem.
And this is maybe, as you referenced it earlier when you used the term pain points, or unwillingness or failure or reluctance, whatever it is, in having these discussions. Maybe because they're emotive, maybe because we're ill-informed, maybe we're just unwilling. But let me ask, the rollover, you referenced that. There are many in our communities who say, well, there's no longer a rollover policy. To your knowledge, is there still a rollover policy in play?
There is in the private sector.
Sorry, let me emphasize, in the private sector.
There is.
Because there are many who say, well, no, that's out the door. There's no more rollover.
No, there is still the requirement under the Immigration Transition Act that when somebody reaches year 9, unless they have PR, or working by operation of law, which is what's happening with those in the public sector, that they're allowed to stay. But in the private sector, once you get to year 8, you're then required, if you wish, to apply for PR, permanent residency, with the right to work based on employment and residency. And then between then and year 9, you're supposed to know where you stand. If you don't know where you stand by year 9 and the application is being processed, you then continue to work by what you call a permission to continue working, a PCW, and you continue until you heard what's happening to your PR application. If you don't get it, you can choose to pack up and go home, or you can appeal it, and again, it's another process and whatnot. But there is a rollover policy, and my understanding is that you have to be away, what the law says is you have to be away for 12 months, absence from the island. And then once you return, you can restart that 9 years. Or
but if you're here while this process is unfolding, the appeal or your application is in abeyance, in a sense, after year 8, and that time still continues to accrue and it counts in your favor. Is that the understanding?
Well, there again, you may be what they call the lacuna in the system where there could be a loophole, right? I don't know whether that time that you're not on a permit, but you're working by operation of law.
You're still legal in the country.
You're still legally resident. You're still physically in the country, yeah.
Yeah, physically. Legally, you're allowed to be here because, you're waiting to find out what happens to you. A year, 2, 10 passes.
Yeah.
Seemingly, the practice is that, well, okay, boy, you've been here another 3-5 years. So that's in your favor.
Yeah, I'd have to say what Bill Clinton said. It depends on how you define it, because it depends on how you define legally an ordinary resident. But yeah. So but it's a very mature question that you asked. Is what happens when people are waiting for their thing to be heard?
Mr. Ebanks, we do have another caller. Mario Ebanks is our guest. Let's take this call. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon, Dwayne, and to you, Mr. Mario. Dr. Ebanks here. Hope you both are doing well.
Hey, good to hear from you, man. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Any better, I couldn't stand it, as I always try to maintain,
Any better you be in my house, bro?
Good, man. Good.
Won't it?
Good news.
Good news. I noticed we have a lot of questions, and seems questions, and seem to find the answers to some of these things seems to be always the issue. Obviously, since we were aiming off on a topic there, sort of about, sort of permit holders and so forth, I think we were falling in that side rather than Caymanian. I noticed yesterday we were talking about government taking in, a higher percentage of non-Caymanians versus the percentage of Caymanians, and it could vary depending on, where you're pulling them from, etc. But, I think we reached a point now where in Cayman, we have to draw the line as how many people more we can add to our system, right? As far as permanent residents, status holders, and Caymanians, right? How many more we can add artificially? Because it's not benefiting us as Caymanians, whether you want to consider yourself a paper Caymanian or Caymanian, as far as they're concerned, we all Caymanians want to obtain that right. Now, do we want to add any more people to make our lives harder? Because they're not really making our lives better. It might make certain businesses better, because if you work for a business, obviously where, like most businesses in Cayman, where it's driven by consumption, the more consumption, the more money they make. So that benefits those businesses, or some of them anyway. It doesn't really benefit us, but we got to come up with some solution where we have to put a stop to how many people can just become Cayman, because you got a lot of people here in Cayman that has been waiting on what you talk about permanent residence or Cayman status for the longest time. And like Mr. Mario just saying, we hate it. It's been, I think, this year will be 20 years since that came on last time that I Caymanian status thing happened. So all of those people who in 2004 got their right to be Caymanian and had children, 2 or 3 children, and within that time, their children are going to be 18 or more, 19, 20 this year, they're going to be eligible to vote. And those people, who now have, that right to vote, those children, they're going to be looking back and seeing how they got in that position too. They're going to look back and say, well, obviously, it was lucky that my parents got the right to be Caymanians, which now made me a Caymanian, which made me eligible to vote. Those people are going to be voting next election, and those people are going to be driving for big changes in Cayman, Mr. Mario, and I think you know that as well. That a lot of supporters that you had before me have been just, what you can call Caymanians, but now you got this new set of Caymanians come board and making up a smaller percentage that and you can see this become repetitive because that 1,000 becomes 4,000 as they multiply and multiply, and they're multiplying faster than the ones that were there before. Because, if you go around and look and say, okay, does government give incentives for us to make more babies? No, but it does give incentives to import more people. You put laws in place to house them, provide them with transportation, give them all the best benefits, and then you give them equal pay to us as well. And then the money gets shipped back to their country, which multiplies and builds up their country. So, what I've been seeing is that our politicians have been liaising so much with our neighbors in the region and other places. And the picture, the frame of mind I'm getting is that we're just importing all of their problems and sending all the money back to those countries and building them up. And there has to be some form of extra taxes and everything like people that are non-Caymanians. I have brought up this issue before that anybody who's not a Caymanian, and I keep saying this, if you are young Caymanian by paper, or you got it by PIN, or however you got it, you're still a Caymanian. You're a Caymanian, right? But anybody who doesn't have these rights, and you're driving on a road, for example, why are you paying the same $50 like I do? You understand? This should be something that are passed on to. That's really in a country where we bring in tourism, tax our tourists is, I guess, the best that you can tax and get one left at home, because we have other issues where they go to Jamaica and other places first and they suck all the money out of them to get the leftovers around here. So these are all things that, we take away Caymanians opportunities, like you just talking about making more PRs and so forth. Every time you make a new Caymanian, you just take away other Caymanians opportunity. And I've been in businesses before where I've opened up, be it a bar, be it a restaurant, or some little retail store. You open them up, and by the time you turn around, there's 10 or 15 other ones of that. And I got in there. Just give you a good example. It's our service industry.
Right.
Our service industry, right, is been totally almost destroyed by allowing liquor stores to open later hours during the weekends and during these holidays. If you go back in the past when it was more regulated, our liquor stores used to close at 6, and that allowed be it bars or restaurants to hire more waiters, waitresses, and staff so that they could cater for these services after that time. But now you got the restaurant closed at 11, the liquor store closed at 11, nobody hardly goes to the restaurant, waiters and waitresses. So that's less jobs.
Yeah, caller, could I ask you a question? Since we're kind of talking a bit about immigration, in January last year there was 34,000 foreign nationals in Cayman, right? That figure I think is more now January this year, and 135 different nationalities recorded to be living amongst the Cayman in the Cayman Islands. But of that number, Jamaicans account for 14,586 persons, or 43% of those. Do you have an opinion on that particular ratio?
I do have an opinion on that, Mr. Mario. I do. Cayman, I guess when you look back in time, it has always been separated ourselves in Jamaica specifically. You were talking about them having almost 50% of that number you just called. For years, we have depended on them, not just for our traditional system, our education system, our social system, and when you go back in our police and so forth, and when you look at our social services department, our hospital, our police force, they have some of the highest result. And when you go into the judicial system, majority of our judges and a lot of lawyers, even our attorney general, you keep on going. It is controlled by that particular, or people from there. They might no longer be Jamaican. They might have dual nationality, and they may hold allegiance to that country more than ours. But that is a big problem in Cayman, because right now, if you look at it, if all of these sections are overwhelmed with people from one particular other jurisdiction, they're going to be always looking out for that motherland, if you want to use that term, you know. But just like Caymanians went overseas, they got on ships. Their mind was always on Cayman. If you send a Cuban to Cayman, his or her mind is going to be on Cuba, and the same thing must apply to the Jamaicans, right? And I have many of them good friends.
Right, exactly. Me too.
Nothing bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go to Jamaica and find Caymanians overwhelming their social service system and judicial system? No. Okay? So if we're not doing it to other countries, we allow other countries to come and do it to us, take our jobs, take our opportunities. You know, we have a lot of things that is influencing our youth right now. For example, take the fact that music association used to have control over who could come here and perform. Now, it couldn't stop you from what you listen to on the internet, but it had a say as to who could come here and perform. Now that system falls directly under work. And work didn't even have the staff to enforce things. They still don't, like most government departments. And when they're looking through these permits for performers to come in, it's almost like you can get anybody to come here to influence our children. And if you go around the schools and stuff right now, you realize how much a big influence that dancehall music has on our young society. And again, going back to this thing, Mr. Mario, that leads back to Jamaica as well. The music influences our youth. We align with their culture. We then start to behave. I'm a musician, and I know when I play a song, I can make people do things that they never thought they would have did when they came out.
But
between music and alcohol, especially when you start adding all these things together, and especially the music, those lyrics and those words.
But call it, can I if Dwayne would permit me, but what's the solution to this? I mean, it should be, years ago they had some kind of quota system, a quota where you said one nationality can't exceed the nearest to it by a certain percentage. What's the solution? Because you're right, I mean, there's a lot of wonderful Jamaicans here, and we depend on them for many things. And we got friends and family and co-workers and church brothers and sisters and stuff like that. But, the facts are facts. We have to be careful we don't overrun ourselves with one nationality. What is your view on the solution? I mean, we don't have much time left, so
keep talking, man, until we go.
Yeah.
But my solution is, the problem really is coming from our politicians. A lot of them sometimes they don't table any motions, they don't table no bills, they really do nothing that's going to help none of us, right? And if you look right now, Mr. Mario, and I can tell them, because I'll tell them to their face as well, if you look at a lot of our sitting politicians, they align themselves with a lot of the Jamaican benefits, if you want to use that word. They're always flying over there, they're keeping themselves tight to Jamaica. And if me or you were to get elected and we go tabling a bill saying that we want to put some moratorium on places like what you're talking about, stopping certain nationalities amounts when they hit a certain limit, those majority, if you want to call them right now at the time, would beat me and you under the table, because they over there bought up land, bought up labor, and things are coming back this way. So, they've already been almost bought up by the Jamaicans, if you want to use that term, or have interest, in other words, right? And we can see it. So there's no lie, no nothing to hide. I mean, the other day when we had unfortunately, that shooting down there at the 8th Seal, and the premier and them had the press briefing or whatever they had on the television, even though, yes, she used a term that I can relate to, but I didn't like it. She used something saying, out of many, we are one. And after a minute, I'd say, am I listening to a Jamaican politician, or is this a Cayman? Why could she use something else? Like, we found it on the high seas, as far as I'm concerned, or something else, But when they start to talk, it makes me know right away. The music is not only influencing our youth, These politicians themselves are already aligned with just what you're saying. They're aligned with Jamaica. They might not be aligned with every Jamaican, unless they got money. But if they can use their labor for free, they'll use them. And we're seeing right now, Mr. Mario, you get a job at government. I'll give you an example. And you talk about pensions and things, but getting a job at government, you got to go sit some test, one written test, and then after they pick you out of that test to see how you scored, right? And then they determine you whether you get interview or not. Now, when you go around to the private sector, most of them, making you sit no test. They don't even know if you can count from 1 to 10. They'll find that out when they put you on the job, because that's what you state on your resume. And government itself, right now, as far as I'm concerned, is holding back a lot of Caymanians by having a lot of different policies in place. They need to be removed. Talking about to hold this position, you need to have this degree and that and this and that. There are people out there that don't have those degrees and can walk through those jobs better than those that have the degrees. You find somebody that got a wide education, but you only want specific things that a common man himself can do. Now, if you need something higher, then of course you have somebody else to handle it. But government has it set that, okay, we got to try to take on all the well-educated people and put them into the government system, because right now, the private sector probably not going to take them because there's always somebody on the internet better than you. So we find that all these social issues going on, and it happens. I don't want to blame your politician, because Mr. Mario, if you get elected and you table a bill and your chief officer doesn't trace behind that bill within the civil service to make sure that they do the job according to what your plans are, it could even backfire. I mean, we've seen it happen before.
Indeed,
because the chief officer gets distracted believing in the administration of the civil service, and it goes the wrong direction. And if the politician comes down and try to get himself directly involved with the administration of the civil service, or he's stepping out the boundaries, because the chief officer's job is that.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand how the system works, but if you have a full overview of how all these other pieces work, and you can get all those other politicians to align with that process, and you table those bills, you might get something done. But right now, how I see it, the problem is coming because we import not one particular nationality, because these politicians are in line with that.
All right. I appreciate you sharing that, and with great respect to you and to Miss Ebanks. Let's pause, take our news, come back. Maybe we can talk straight through to 2:30 or 5 o'clock. We'll see. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard the news? Digicel is back with exciting offers that are too good to resist. Activate one of our brand new prepaid or postpaid plans today and experience telecommunications like never before. With more data, dedicated entertainment options like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, and endless social text data for all your favorite platforms. Digicel is here to make sure you stay connected and entertained. Whether you are on a prepaid or postpaid, you will also enjoy dedicated roaming data for the USA, Canada, and the Caribbean. It's all about value, and Digicel has got you covered.
Discover your dream home with Cayman National's home loan. Get up to 95% financing, repayment up to 40 years, and just a 0.5% commitment fee. Your interest rate? Depending on your risk factors, it'll be fixed or variable. Plus, you get a pre-approved credit card. This is a limited time offer. Dial 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Dwayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
You know who this is? That same old girl that went to Hollywood and Panama? Well, guess what? The fun ain't done yet, because this year, I'm going to country concerts in Denver. I got kick up my heels in Times Square, and I got find my way to Barbados. I got keep living the dream with Cayman Airways. We so blessed to have them. I tell you what, though, this old girl's feeling younger than ever.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering international non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, Denver, Los Angeles, Panama, Kingston, Mobay, La Ceiba, and Havana, plus Barbados. Enjoy free rum punch, free in-flight entertainment, free seat selection, and free meals on select flights. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
We are Radio Cayman,
covering Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, and Grand Cayman.
1 in a million. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
Units, an innovative storage solutions company, is inviting chamber members and guests to attend a business after hours, which will take place on April 11th at the White House, 20 Genesis Close, at 5:30 p.m. Business After Hours is the Chamber of Commerce's premier networking event, allowing member businesses to showcase their products and services in an informal and friendly atmosphere. Good afternoon once again. I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines in news elsewhere. Rescuers in Taiwan are working to reach more than 600 stranded people a day after the island experienced its worst earthquake in 25 years. One survivor has recounted how tremors unleashed rock slides like bullets around the coal mine he was working at. The 7.4 magnitude earthquake hit near the eastern country of Hualien, killing 9 and injuring more than 1,000. Some stuck in tunnels and near a national park have been rescued by helicopters, but 34 are still missing. And people across North America will be treated to a view of a lifetime on Monday when a total solar eclipse is set to span across the continent from Mexico to the very eastern tip of Canada. Hundreds of events are already being planned for April 8th for eclipse watchers to step outside, look into the sky, and catch this rare astronomical phenomenon. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon moves between the Earth or the Sun, blocking some or all of the Sun's rays from reaching the Earth. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Radio Cayman Talk Today continues.
Welcome back, and thanks to Mario Ebanks for being a guest. And human capital development, labor, immigration, a lot of things to discuss. I think, Mr. Ebanks, you might have to either stay here or return, but your call. We do have a caller, though. Let's take this one. And thanks for joining us. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, good day. Good day.
Hey, how are you today?
Afternoon.
All is well?
I should have, that ends well. I should have said, open by saying, Pro Caymanian.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Paul.
Is this my homeboy from Mount Pleasant?
Somewhere close.
Okay. All right. I think I know who it is.
Yeah, I just want to comment on some of the things that Mario was speaking on regarding, of social development and, the directions we've been taking. Seems like, this thing of the 100,000 people is still seems to be something that governments seem to be consistently trying to achieve. First of all, look at the situation with schools, children going to get an education, coming out unprepared for the real world, building the inferior complex more or less because they can't compete with the people they see around them who has, skilled, who's almost like they has this mandatory system back where they're from that they go through, gaining some gainful occupation. And the children here is like, how many people can really afford to send their kids to college in the first place? But again, also look at the monster that was created so long ago, that the monster is now eating us up. What I'm talking about is a little country this size that when you're watching a football game in a major sport in English football, for instance, they have more people in attendance than we have as a population here. But we got a budget, national budget of what? Is that $1 billion, from what I understand?
Right. Yes.
Well, now you see the concerns now. Everything stems from we need to get money. We need more money. And how do we get that? I don't think government can substitute the $100 million I understand that they collect from immigration fees. Therefore, a lot of us has been lost in the shuffle and in the development of this type of almost compulsive revenue. So saying that, when is that going to go away? The way Cayman is modeled, probably not anytime soon. But what I can say to make, trying to consolidate what I'm about to say and just wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
But what needs to be done here, I think more than anything else, because I hear a lot of people talking, words have been spoken, but it's not really happening as yet because we're still, a fairly good society financially, even though, you don't see poverty, superficially here on the surface. You don't see that visible here. So things are still too good for people to get up in numbers and make demands that they get better representation going forward. But what should be done, needs to be done, is organize groups that has concerns of the directions and the development of Cayman socially, economically, financially, every which way. And they are the ones who represent the voices of the normal people who is not heard, the masses. There's a small group of people that does that, like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, you can't depend on this thing about opposition, because what opposition really is in government is a government in waiting. That's who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't expect now for many of the issues that we have that is very glaring that, to leave addressed by them. We need to have people who come forward, organize themselves, go about it very democratically, peacefully, but with major concerns that represents the general populace of the Cayman Islands. And until those things happen, you won't get a solution. We'll always be talking about, all the unfortunate, the directions we're heading, the ills. It will not go away. It gets worse because it gets back to the age-old question: whom is Cayman being developed for? And by the way, we were talking about that from me involved from the 1970s.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So you understand?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm just saying that what Mario is saying is making a lot of evident, and very obvious declarations as to the state that we're in. But to try to fix it, I think we need to become more organized.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, gentlemen, I like listening, and because I like to listen to Mario.
Thank you.
And he was bringing, good forth for us.
All right.
Okay, then?
Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All the best here. We have a call, but Mario, is there anything you want to share?
All I want to say to that caller is that I really appreciate him very much. He's one of our role models, and then we were growing up in Mount Pleasant. And in 1972, there was a report that was written from a company called Laventhal and Howard.
Mm-hmm.
They talked about the same thing, about managed growth. In 1991, Coopers and Lybrand did a study about the same thing, a 10-year plan. And then we had Vision 2008. We've had a lot of plans done, right? But it seems like the politicians over the years have not done the policy part of their work. So we need policies. We need policies now. We need to get these things in place now. I'm sick and tired of hearing when I raise something to say, oh, we're working on that, or, oh, I'll look into it. We need action now, today.
Let me ask. We referenced, as we take the call, we referenced Vision 2008. For people who don't know, let me ask a question that may not have the answer to, but was that something that was done in 2008, or was that done, prior to?
No, I think it was done prior to that. Yeah, it was actually done, I believe, in 1998 or thereabouts, and it was supposed to last for 10 years for 2008, and that's what they call Vision 2008. So it was a 10-year plan from 1998.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff is very futuristic and still very relevant. But a lot of it is also collected dust.
Well, that's the thing. The reason why I say that is that if we think it was prior to 1998, but with a vision 2008 being 10 years once the publication,
right?
We look at the early 90s of that strategic plan for health care. If we take 1998 and we look at today, we're almost 3 decades on, referring to a document that has been collecting dust for almost as many years, right? We have a couple of calls. I thank Mr. Paul for dancing between the phone lines as we take the next. Hey, welcome. Thank you for calling.
Hey, good afternoon, Dwayne.
And to you, man. How is it going today?
Okay, now. Good afternoon to Mario too.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, my brother.
Okay. Well, probably going in about 8 years now. 7, 8 years. I read in the newspaper a report from the Auditor General. And she said all the concessions that have been given away, the Caymanians have nothing to show for it. And from what I was told by Mr. Roy Martagat, part of the concession deal is 60% of the workforce should be building those buildings, should be Caymanians. But how can that happen if government is not collecting the concessions and building the trade schools in every district in order to have that percentage building those buildings? And then our young people, young Caymanians, are able to find some professional work that they enjoy doing in their lives, and not continue going around and just being idle and finding themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time and around the wrong people doing the wrong things. And it's not fair for these rich people to come around here and do not want to give us concession in order for us to help us build these trade schools in every district, because not only trade schools that we need, we need hurricane shelters. We need hurricane shelters. You all need to stop putting people in these hurricane shelters at the same level with the ground. Because if you have a serious sea surge and you all have old people and children inside those buildings, it's not going to be nice. You got to watch it in your own homes. Because what I see happening here in this country right now to the Caymanians, it don't surprise me if anything happened. Like people got short-term memory about that earthquake.
Yeah.
Okay, so people when they run in for politics, and when they get inside there, and they know all these things that we need. Look all like Northwood Prison. We had a prison inspector came here from England must be about 15 years ago. And he said, Northwood, it's a disgrace to see that Cayman Islands have that kind of prison with the finances that we have. We're taking our money and giving it to rich people.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Instead of taking our money and build things that we need for our young people and to keep them. The best trade school right now is in Northwood Prison,
As our caller always references, right? Thank you very much, and with the greatest respect, we're just at that hard break. So let's take this break, take the calls when we return, and conclude at 12:30. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
You know who this is? That same old girl that went to Hollywood and Panama? Well, guess what? The fun ain't done yet, because this year, I'm going to country concerts in Denver. I got kick up my heels in Times Square, and I got find my way to Barbados. I got keep living the dream with Cayman Airways. We so blessed to have them. I tell you what though, this old girl's feeling younger than ever.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering international non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, Denver, Los Angeles, Panama, Kingston, Mobay, La Ceiba, and Havana, plus Barbados. Enjoy free rum punch, free in-flight entertainment, free seat selection, and free meals on select flights. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard the news? Digicel is back with exciting offers that are too good to resist. Activate one of our brand new prepaid or postpaid plans today and experience telecommunications like never before. With more data, dedicated entertainment options like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, and endless social text data for all your favorite platforms. Digicel is here to make sure you stay connected and entertained. Whether you are on a prepaid or postpaid, you will also enjoy dedicated roaming data for the USA, Canada, and the Caribbean. It's all about value, and Digicel has got you covered.
The Rotary Central Spring Storytime, Saturday, April 6th at West Bay Public Library, 10 a.m. through noon. A free storytelling children's event featuring Eric Magician, sing-along, Miss Izzy, exciting art and craft, prizes, refreshments, goodie bags. The Rotary Central Spring Storytime, Saturday, April 6th at West Bay Public Library. Children must be accompanied by adults. Rotary, creating hope in the world.
This is Winston Connolly, and I work in the financial services sector. I'm concerned about the way climate change is affecting our energy sector. Storms can delay fuel imports and damage infrastructure, and heat waves can destabilize the grid. These issues can prevent Caymanians from using their cars, lights, and air conditioning. To learn more about the climate risks to our islands, visit www.gov.ky/climate change policy.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks to Mario Ebanks for joining us. And I know with your, employment situation, if it's okay through you to say thanks to employers generally for loving their employees, whether they're, as tenured and as sort of dedicated, but also instrumental to the organization, to that new individual, to publicly comment, to share. But also,
that's a good thing for inner society.
Yeah.
You've got people to be able to contribute towards the country.
Right. And your views are your views, and I hope that people listen, that they'll agree, they'll disagree, but we do it constructively, and maybe others will be likewise encouraged to share their views. That's a democracy.
I want to make it clear too, Dwayne, if I could, is that I'm not here as a candidate or anything like that, because somebody really said something, but I'm not running for office. I'm not here as a candidate. I'm here on your invitation to talk about some current issues, including immigration and anything else you want to talk about.
But thank you for that too, because as you take this call, your employment, you were the manager of Chamber of Commerce way back when, you run your own successful enterprise, you employ the government, multiple iterations and the like. But that's what's important, that the society can draw internally from its own resources. Whether you are a political candidate in the past should have no bearing on your willingness, ability, or acceptance to speak no.
Right.
In fact, maybe it's incumbent on us to whom much is given, much is required. But maybe when we're not political candidates, we can have more license because we're not trying to cover favor with people. I don't know.
You'd be surprised in a small community how you're blacklisted, for doing
blacklisted,
the right thing.
Whitelisted, sideline.
Whatever kind of color you
green
want.
lighted, it doesn't matter, right?
But we do the right thing, and we hold our head up high, and we deal with the issues and not with the personalities and the mud. And the eagles will soar in that kind of environment.
Here's something I think my father would say if he had said it. He didn't say it, but at least I didn't recall it. He said, "Let hunger keep you awake, but not your conscience."
Exactly.
Let's go to this call. Hey, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Mr. Dwayne.
Hey, haven't heard from you, man. How are you? You good?
I'm busy, boy.
Well, listen, man. You're a productive man. A very devoted father. So good to hear from you. Hope all is well, my friend. Pray all is well.
Same to you. All is well with you and your family. And
thank you, man.
Just listening to the shows for the past couple of weeks, and you sound very I don't know, kind of like spiteful, man. Kind of talking, mostly about is immigration problem. Like is the immigration is people that from other way that come here. But let me ask you something: who let them people come here? If it wasn't a politician, who let them come here?
The system, really. The system.
Who run the system?
The laws and regulations that are put in place by the policymakers and legislators, yeah.
Yeah, right. So I don't know about classifying any immigration sector or any immigration status or say someone from somewhere else has a problem. When we have what you call big leeches running our system. For that, I would just like to say too, when you think about the 18, you remember when the kids had it free till the 18, right?
The healthcare.
Yes, sir.
Right.
No, like I said, I always tell them, I say, you got tricked because you tried to say, well, these babies that coming from other countries, they're not worth the same amount as thing that you tricked us into saying, well, we're not going to help them babies. And at the same time, you stop all the kids, you understand, free health care. Like my kids, everybody kids, not only the Jamaicans or foreigners. Plus, if you're born here, you're not a Caymanian. Even if you're from two Caymanians, you're not a Caymanian. In that instance, I have to go and pay, or I have to go and, notify the people that I am Caymanian, I was born here. When in every other country, when you're born there, you're from that country. And that is a very good status when you're trying to keep a population control or trying to keep people down, especially the young youths. And then the next thing too is they trick you into voting for that. Then the next one I got a bigger laugh for you is the garbage. They said they wouldn't bring no more plastic in 2001. They wouldn't be doing that. Okay? But now they want you to clean up the beach for free, right? The plastic that they keep bringing in here and the people that own the island are producers of plastic and styrofoam and all this kind of things. But I bet you won't dare tell the person that bringing all that to start bringing in plastic. I bet you won't dare do that. But you'll have us try to go and say, oh, you're dirty. You better get arrested if you throw down something for that. Then you know what you could do? You could pay me to go and I'll bring 50 pounds of garbage every day. You know what I mean? But you won't. But I bet you won't do that because you know why? It's not like you have total control over me then because I have something that probably I can make a decent, living wage.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't have that. I can't have nothing. That's what Mr. Alden said. Nothing in life is free. So you tell me something. Mr. Dwayne, in the person up in there, right? Tell me something. How much you had to pay to crawl out, to come out, to be born? How much you had to pay you? Like, when you're paying the toll across the road?
Mm-hmm.
How much you had to pay to come out, to be alive? How much you had to pay? Tell me.
Yeah, I don't remember my cost, but I can say if I'm hearing you, your analogy, birthing a child these days, whether you have good health insurance, whether there are any sort of contributions on your part, from the hospitalization to the physicians, even in an uncomplicated high-risk pregnancy, can be costly.
Yeah, $3,000 for a baby.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is.
Okay, I thought it was more than that, but okay.
Well, I don't know. I might have got a discount. I don't know.
You might have, yeah.
But you are telling me now, all these 250 million years that we've been on this earth, we had to pay to be alive? I don't think so. So these kind of mentalities, where they are corporate led, we have to get rid of them. Every one of them.
Well, then
they say we are clean up the garbage, but yet you won't dare tackle the person that bringing in all the garbage.
Yeah. Let's ask ourselves another question. Let's say if a country has a national debt, and would it be, and perhaps Mr. Ebanks can help us, he has an MBA as well, level with multiple other degrees. If we have a country that has a national debt, let's say $1 billion, and it has a population of, let's say, 100,000, does that mean that each person in that country is now indebted by that number? I mean, is that something that we could look at and say you're born into debt in that sense?
They would like to make us think so. But we don't have no debt with no international, no other person other than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what they would try to say. I never vote to be with no that. I never write nothing to be with that. But yet you won't throw the debt on me.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, man.
No, that not gonna work, boss, man.
All right.
Sorry.
Listen, always good.
Again, I'll call again. I love the show, Miss Dwayne. Always. I always love listening. I always thank you for my time. I always thank to the DJ. Always give me the helpful welcome, Miss Susan, all them. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you too for listening and for sharing, man. Enjoy the mangles, all right?
Yes, sir.
Take care. This is where I think a society can measure its wealth, from every member of the society feeling that it has, a sense of responsibility to speak publicly, an accepted, open, welcome invitation to do so. I'm just hoping that we don't take that for granted, because a democracy will be heavily compromised when there's people are silenced, when their voices are relegated to the margin, and when there's own have a sense of hopelessness, that despair for a future can be very daunting.
Yeah, it can be. And just going back to some philosophical stuff, Dwayne, I think all of us in this country have a responsibility to be good shepherds. If everybody can be a good shepherd to somebody else that you may call a sheep, I think we have a much better country and a much better region, much better world. I know that Third World Band has a song called Sheep in Meadows about the Good Shepherd. I think I love that song. And but I think, Dwayne, that, we have a good country here. We have a mix, we're a real melting pot, but we have some issues that we have to deal with. And politicians, successive generations of politicians and those in the future have to commit to dealing with these things if you're going to keep this place going, well as can be for future generations. And I want to, I know you're getting close to winding up now, but I want to just reiterate the book that I spoke about when I first came, The Cayman Islands History, Politics and Society. It's available. It's a collection of essays in honor of J.A. Roy Bodden. It's available from Dr. Livingston Smith or Dr. Stephanie Fullerton Cooper at UCCI. And only $25. And in that book, chapter 19, is where you'll read my chapter about human capital development. I also want to say, Dwayne, that I think reinitiating the nationality quota is an important thing for us to think about. It's not going to be popular, but I think it's important, where you don't have one nationality, where whoever that may be, overrunning everybody else by such a large margin. I think that's not healthy. There's another area that we need to look at too, is this thing called ghost Caymanians. There's so many people here in Cayman itself that have Caymanian connections that they don't have any right. They're still in a gray area, and they're called ghost Caymanians. They don't have any papers, they don't have any status, they don't have anything. And they're just surviving here without any rights. And they have access to rights, but they're not. Government needs to do whatever it need to do to regularize those people and move them from ghost Caymanians to legitimate, documented Caymanians.
For problems, great, yeah.
And I think that diversifying the sources of work permit holders is a good thing to do. Again, Immigration Board and Business Staffing Plan Board have a job to do in that. It's in the law and regulations, have to enforce it. Business people have to also be sensitive to it and try to make it work. But we also got to bring Caymanians back home, and those who are connected to Cayman, they're living abroad, they want to come back home, including their children and grandchildren. They want to come back here. Let's pave the way. And I think it was in the 1985 there was a program to bring back Caymanians, and Mr. Norman Bodden was the Minister for Tourism and Trade in those days, and they started a program. But let's bring those people back. And finally, I want to say that the loophole of non-Caymanians going into the civil service to evade inadvertently or non-intentionally the PR rollover thing is a smoking gun. It's a Trojan horse, and government needs to address it, because we're going to have a big surprise one of these days when those people have rights that we don't think that they have now.
Well, to your point, and I say it maybe to cause people to think, you say inadvertently, but what if it's conscious and deliberate? All right, just a question. And when we talk about rights, why is the rights one-sided? You talk about ghost Caymanians. I think it's an issue that's been ignored. But what about the offensive nature of Caymanians? I find it personally offensive. I'm very, very, very encouraged by Dr. Steve McField when he said he has to go and prove that he's a Caymanian. Now, every country should have a way to identify its citizens. But for me to go to present myself to someone to say that I'm a Caymanian, when someone who's given a piece of paper has more rights than that generational person. But I want to ask that to share this. When now the term New Caymanian is used, I always thought it would have been welcome. We're all one. We're all one people in the country moving forward collectively in unity. What if somehow that now is meant to mean that out with the old and in with the new? House divided cannot stand. So, Mr. Ebanks, I should have to ask you, when you are able to return again, in your paper, you talked about some voluntary system where people can remain here and they don't necessarily have that path because they voluntarily agreed to it, to citizenship. No, that's the word I used deliberately and told we can't, because there's no such thing as a Caymanian. But these are discussions you referenced it earlier as pain points. Maybe if I can borrow what you shared, we who live, work here, make this our home, whether we go back generations, whether we've only just been there a short time, should we not collectively work together to make it a safe civil society where, in a very conscious way, we make it the very best place so that we can enjoy, we can be safe, we can prosper politically, economically, and socially?
I agree. I agree, Dwayne, and I think that I would be happy to come back to talk about that subject of PR and status, because I think we have to find a better way forward than we have now. And the PR point system that has been under review for the last 2 or 3 years needs to get sorted out one way or the other. And again, it takes policies and people getting things done. But I'm happy to come back in the future to discuss with you, my learned friend and cousin. Or another, or panel member, that's okay. Or panel members, because we got to have these mature conversations if we're going to build this country from good to great.
Indeed. Well, thank you. And as you talked about, Third World, other than Billy Joel being my favorite artist, Third World is probably the favorite group. They did a Jackson Brown song, Lives in the Balance. I think that's one that we listen to, understanding the political commentary as Jackson Brown wrote it, much better performed by Third World, in my view. But remove the political nature of the commentary and look at it in the sense of the puppet masters who pull in the strings behind the scenes, and ask yourself, if not now, man, if not me, who?
Right. Good point.
Tomorrow's Friday. I know I got something planned, but more importantly, I want to, on behalf of Mr. Art Connor, invite you to join him for the record tomorrow and be a part of that discussion. A fine gentleman will talk to us. We'll be talking about, artificial intelligence. I always encouraged by his wit and his intellect, by his sense of being, very, very conscious and considerate, but also a gentleman who stands in the gap. My good friend, Samuel Jackson, he always says, Samuel says, we work so much on talking about artificial intelligence. Let's work instead on fixing natural stupidity. Well, artificial intelligence is going to be your discussion on Talk Today tomorrow. Have a wonderful afternoon. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And now, Barbados. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.